Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiv Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtike. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 12, Dhruva Maharaj goes back to Godhead, text number 27 onwards. So two Vishnu Dutas, Nand and Sunand, had come to take Dhruva Maharaj back to the spiritual world. So they are glorifying Dhruva Maharaj now. Etad viman pravaram uttam shloka maulina upasthapitam ayushman dhirodum tvam arhasi. O immortal one, this unique airplane has been sent by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is worshipped by the selected prayers and who is the chief of all living entities. You are quite worthy to board such a plane. Means he had his passport, he had his visa, he had his boarding pass, everything ready to board the plane. According to astronomical calculations, along with the pole star, there is another star which is called Shishumar, where Lord Vishnu, who is in charge of the maintenance of this material world, resides. So Lord Vishnu, who is in charge of maintenance, means Kshirodaksha Vishnu, he resides. So Shishumar or Dhruv Loka can never be reached by anyone but the Vaishnavas, as will be described by the following shlokas. The associates of Lord Vishnu brought the special airplane for Dhruv Maharaj and then informed him that Lord Vishnu had especially sent this airplane. The Vaikuntha, somebody's sound is on. The Vaikuntha airplane does not move by any mechanical arrangement. There are three processes for moving in outer space. One of the processes is known to the modern scientist. It's called Kapot Vayu. Ka means outer space and Pota means ship. There is another process also called Kapot Vayu. Kapota means pigeon. So Prabhupada writes, one can train pigeons to carry one into outer space. So, I don't know how that works. I don't know. Prabhupada wrote it, it must be right. Kapot means pigeon also. I don't know how that works, how you can train pigeons to carry you out into the outer space. And the third process is very subtle. It's called Akash Patan. This Akash Patan system is also material, just as the mind can fly anywhere one likes without mechanical arrangement. So the Akash Patan airplane can fly at the speed of mind. Beyond this Akash Patan system is a Vaikuntha process, which is completely spiritual. So Akash Patan is more or less like a flying carpet. If you sit on that carpet, it takes you to different places. The airplane sent by Lord Vishnu to carry Dhruva Maharaj to Shishumar was completely spiritual, transcendental airplane. Material scientists can neither see such vehicles nor imagine how they fly in the air. The material scientist has no information about the spiritual sky, although it is mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita, Parastasmatu Bhavavanya. So the plane he got was a transcendental spiritual plane, but there are three ways Prabhupada mentions. One is Kapot Vayu, means the mechanical arrangements. Other one is the pigeons. And third was the Akash Patan. But for Dhruva Maharaj, a transcendental plane had come to take him back. Text 28. Maitri-vacha nishamya vaikuntha niyojya mukhyayo madhuchyutam mabacham urukram priyaha kritabhisheka krit nitya mangalo Munin pranamya ashim abhyavadayat. The great sage Maitreya continued, Maharaj Dhruva was very dear to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When he heard the sweet speeches of the Lord's chief associates in the Vaikuntha planet, he immediately took his sacred bath, dressed himself with suitable ornaments, and performed his daily spiritual duties. Thereafter, he offered his respectful obeisances to the great sages present there and accepted their blessings. So all this is happening in Badrika Ashram, where Dhruva Maharaj had gone to do his meditation. And so there were many sages present there. They were also doing their tapasya. We should mark how dutiful Dhruva Maharaj was in his devotional service, even at the time he left this material world. He was constantly alert in the performance of devotional duties. Every devotee should take his bath early in the morning and decorate his body with tilak. In Kali Yuga, one can hardly acquire gold or jeweled ornaments, but the 12 tilak marks on the body are sufficient as auspicious decorations to purify the body. Since Dhruva Maharaj was living at the time at Badrika Ashram, there were also other great sages there. He did not become puffed up because the airplane sent by Lord Vishnu was waiting for him. As a humble Vaishnava, he accepted blessings from all the sages before riding on the plane brought by the chief of the Vaikuntha associates. So when the Nand and Sunat, the Vishnu Dutas, had come with the plane, so Dhruva Maharaj was ready to go. So he took his bath, he dressed himself and put on tilak and did his daily spiritual duties. Well, he did not just jump, okay, let's go, I'm ready, I'm qualified. You said I'm qualified. No. And then look at his humility. He offered his respectful obeisances to the great sages present over there. And Prabhupada said he did not become puffed up, that he wasn't proud that, oh, I'm going, you are staying here, you all are fallen souls, I'm the only one exalted, advanced enough to go back to Vaikuntha planet. No, he asked for their blessings. That's real humility, isn't it? Even he is going back to the spiritual world. And the sages are not, they are there in Badrika Ashram. Of course, Badrika Ashram is also non-different from spiritual world. But in the other one sense, he was going back. And the plane had come for him. But he still felt it's the right thing to do. That's humility. Humility doesn't mean we forget our duties, but we do it very nicely. Parityabhyacharya dhishnya griyam parshadav abhivandya cha yeshtad adhishtatum bibrad rupam hiranyamayam. Before getting aboard, Dhruva Maharaj worshipped the airplane, circumambulated, and also offered obeisances to the associates of Vishnu. In the meantime, he became as brilliant and illuminating as molten gold. He was thus completely prepared to board the transcendental plane. See, again his humility. He circumambulated the airplane because it had come from Vaikuntha, and Lord Vishnu had sent it. And everything in Vaikuntha is conscious. So the airplane was also conscious. It was spiritual. And then he offered obeisances to the associates of Vishnu. In the absolute world, the plane, the associates of Lord Vishnu and Lord Vishnu himself are all spiritual. There is no material contamination. In quality, everything there is one. As Lord Vishnu is worshipable, so also are his associates. His paraphernalia, his airplane, and his abode for everything of Vishnu is as good as Lord Vishnu. Dhruva Maharaj knew all this very well as a pure Vaishnava, and he offered his respects to the associates and to the plane before riding in it. But in the meantime, his body changed into spiritual existence, and therefore it was illuminating like molten gold. In this way, he also became one with the other paraphernalia of Vishnu Loka. So he paid respects to the airplane, to the associates of Lord Vishnu. Everyone is spiritual. Everything, everyone who comes from spiritual world. And then Prabhupada said his body changed into molten gold. It was illuminating like molten gold. So that is what happens to the body of a person who is spiritually advanced. If you see pictures of Srila Prabhupada, towards anytime you can see it, towards all his time when he was preaching, especially towards the last days, or videos you can see, sometimes he is taken on a palanquin to the different temples in Vrindavan, and sometimes he's just lying on the bed. But if you notice, his body was golden. Because earlier he was from Bengal, so he was a little darker in color. So towards the end, his body was like dark gold. It was golden. It was effulgent, very effulgent. In fact, not just towards the end. When Prabhupada was in America preaching, traveling, preaching all over, in New York, once he crossed a road with his disciples, and a policeman he saw, and he came running towards Prabhupada. And the disciples thought maybe we broke the rule, but they didn't break any rule. They didn't break any rule. The policeman, he came running towards Prabhupada, and he said, "You are shining, man, you are shining, you are shining." Means Prabhupada was always spiritual personality. Not everybody could acknowledge that, but the policeman saw that Prabhupada was shining. His body was effulgent. That was spiritual potency. And that is why we always see around the spiritual persons, we see a halo around them, a kind of a golden or whitish halo around at least around their head, if not throughout their body. That is a potency. That is a spiritual potency. It's like showing up. Mayavadi philosophers cannot imagine how this oneness can be achieved even in different varieties. Their idea of oneness is that there is no variety. Therefore, they have become impersonalists. As Shishumar, Vishnu Loka, Dhruva Loka are completely different from this material planet, or material world. So a Vishnu temple within this world is also completely different from this material world. As soon as we are in a temple, we should know very well that we are situated differently from the material world. In the temple, Lord Vishnu, his throne, his room, and all other things associated with the temple are transcendental. The three modes, Sattva-guna, Rajoguna, and Tamoguna, have no entrance into the temple. It is said, therefore, that to live in the forest is in the mode of goodness. To live in the city is in the mode of passion, and to live in a brothel, liquor shop, or slaughterhouse is in the mode of ignorance. But to live in the temple means to live in Vaikuntha Loka. Everything in the temple is as worshipable as Lord Vishnu or Krishna. Because temple is extension or expansion of Balramji himself. So the temple is also transcendental. Wherever the temple of Lord Vishnu is, that is transcendental, that is spiritual world. But then sometimes we see people over there are not exactly transcendental. So we have our shortcomings, we have our faults. We could be in any of the three modes, but the temple is not. Temple is completely transcendental. So it gives us a chance. When we go to the temple or we stay in the temple, it gives us a chance to become spiritual. associate with devotees, do Krishna Katha, Krishna Nam, Krishna Seva, Krishna Puja, and that's it. Eat Krishna Prasad, and that's it. Become spiritual. But our problem is, because we are coming from material world, we have the material consciousness, and we judge everybody by our material consciousness, and then we commit offenses, and then we fall down. And then, just like Jay and Vijay, they had to be relieved of the duties in Vaikuntha Loka because they committed offense against 4 Kumaras. So the devotees are also made to leave the Vaikuntha world and maybe come to America. But anyway, so this is what Prabhupada is saying. The temples are also he said temples are like embassies of the spiritual world. So they're also spiritual. Wherever Lord Vishnu is residing, Lord Vishnu is worshipped, Lord Vishnu has Krishna or Vishnu Ram has performed his pastimes, those places are not material. They cannot be material. They're all spiritual, completely spiritual. It's just we don't have those eyes to see them. We don't have the senses to feel that spirituality. Because we are not pure enough. Tad ottan padah putro dadarshanta kamat gatam mrityur murdhni padam dattva arurohad bhutam griham. When Dhruva Maharaj was attempting to get on the transcendental plane, he saw death personified approach him. Not caring for death, however, he took advantage of the opportunity to put his feet on the head of death, and thus he got up on the airplane, which was as big as a house. It was a huge airplane. It wasn't like just a 3-seater because 3 people were going to get on it. It was a huge plane. And this death personified approached him, and he bowed down before Dhruva Maharaj. And Dhruva Maharaj put his foot on the head of the death and used it as a stool or a step to get onto the plane. In fact, this is the painting given at the cover of this 4th canto. That's what Ashok Prabhuji asked me, what is that painting about? To take the passing away of a devotee and the passing away of a non-devotee as one and the same is completely misleading. While ascending the transcendental airplane, Dhruva Maharaj suddenly saw death personified before him, but he was not afraid. Instead of death giving him trouble, Dhruva Maharaj took advantage of death's presence and put his feet on the head of death. People with poor fund of knowledge do not know the difference between death of a devotee and the death of a non-devotee. So everybody is going to die. Whoever has material body is definitely going to die. He's going to leave this body. But the process will be different. For a karmi, death is very painful because, first of all, chances are Yamdutas come to take him away because he has committed so many sinful activities. And then secondly, he is so attached to the possessions, to the body, to the possessions, to the products of this body, to the relatives. He is so attached, so he doesn't want to leave. Yamdutas really have to snatch him out of his body. Just like we'll read that later on. So for them, death is very, very painful, and that's why many times we see these people die. They pass a stool and urine because Yamdutas have come to take them away. But at the same time, devotees, they also leave the body. When they leave the body, they're very peaceful. Because first of all, they are not attached to anything in this material world. And then secondly, they know first of all, Vishnu Dutas come to take them away. Vishnu Dutas are very nice looking and they bring the nice airplane for them. And then they know they're going back to the spiritual world to serve the Supreme Lord over there. Continue on with their services. And just like Dhruv Maharaj, when he saw those Vishnu Dutas, he didn't know how to greet them, so he chanted the holy names. So the devotees are just chanting the holy names. They get on the airplane and go back while chanting the holy names. So what is there to be afraid of? So that's why they're very joyful. And that is why, that's what Prabhupada used to say, whatever we have done throughout our lives will be shown at the time of death. So when somebody leaves the body with lots of pain and the fear because of Yamdutas, so his face will show that he was fearful, he was afraid. The face will become pale because of fear. And then there are pious people, for them Devdut comes, so that person won't be scared. But the attachments are still there with the material world or with his family and the possessions. So he won't be at peace. He won't be happy to leave the body. He could be at peace, but he won't be happy. So the face will show something like that. But the devotees, not only peaceful, devotees would be blissful when they leave the body. But first of all, they would be prepared to leave the body at any time. Secondly, chanting of holy name would be going on, and they are confident they're going back home, back to Godhead. So all these different things, they'll make them very blissful. So that's why a devotee, a Vaishnava, when he leaves the body, or a yogi also, his body remains very soft. It doesn't become hard, because in case of karmis, it becomes hard right away as soon as the soul leaves the body. Just like recently, His Holiness Bhakti Charu Maharaj left his body, but if you watch the videos, if you watch the videos of his his leaving the body, and then they took the body from America to India, and then the Samadhi ceremony. So his body was very soft, very pliable. So not an easy achievement. But just like Dhruv Maharaj, he performed so much of austerity, so much of tapasya, so much of devotional service, that he attained everything in one life, well, at least in this lifetime. So for death, Prabhupada further says, in this connection, an example can be given. A cat carries its kittens into its mouth, and it also catches a rat in its mouth. Superficially, the catching of the rat and the kitten appear to be one and the same, but actually they are not. When the cat catches a rat in its mouth, it means death for the rat. Whereas when the cat catches the kitten enjoys it. When Dhruv Maharaj boarded the airplane, he took advantage of the arrival of death personified, who came to offer him obeisances. Putting his feet on the head of death, he got up on the unique airplane, which is described here to be as big as a house, griham. There are many other similar instances in Bhagavad literature. It is stated that when Kardama Muni created an airplane to carry his wife Devahuti all over the universe, the airplane was like a big city carrying many houses, lakes, and gardens. Modern scientists have manufactured big airplanes, but they are packed with passengers. They experience all sorts of discomforts while riding in them. So, but this airplane that came to take Dhruv Maharaj back, or the airplane that Kardama Muni even had created a bigger airplane. But these airplanes would be very nice, very comfortable, and there won't be any lack of oxygen or any small seats or something like that. You can really enjoy that flight. Material scientists are not even perfect in manufacturing a material airplane. In order to compare to the plane used by Kardam or the plane sent by from Vishnuloka, they must manufacture an airplane equipped like a big city with all the comforts of life, lakes, gardens, parks, etc. Their plane must be able to fly in outer space and hover and visit all other planets. If they invent such a plane, they will not have to make different space stations for fuel to travel into outer space. Such a plane would have an unlimited supply of fuel, or like the plane from Vishnuloka, would fly without it. So these airplanes didn't need fuel, didn't need anything. They would fly by the speed of mind at the command of the pilot, because the airplanes are also conscious. It's just hard to imagine what kind of airplane are this. Text 31. तदा दुन्दुभ्यो नेदुर्मृदङ्गपणवादयः गन्धर्वमुख्या प्रजगुः पेतुः कुसुमवृष्टयः. At that time, drums and kettle drums resounded from the sky. The chief Gandharvas began to sing, and other demigods showered flowers like torrents of rain upon Dhruv Maharaj. See, everybody is there to welcome him. They were very happy that Dhruv Maharaj is qualified and is going back to the spiritual world. So the next purport is a little longer, so we'll do it tomorrow. So we'll stop here, see anybody has any questions or comments. Okay, so we can stop here. You all have a wonderful and safe day. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada.